and then you are food signs, okay? And then that's pretty much, those are the two topics. Food's kind of a big one because there's so many different types of food. And then, yeah, so for our WH question words, we're going to start with the first one, which is, oh, wait. Actually, I just remembered I can make myself big. Let's see if I can. Pin, there we go. Then gallery. There we go. All right. Shape, and your thumb is going to go on your chin, and then you go who. You can go straight like this or bent. It really, like, see, I'm bending it, or you can go who. Yeah, who. Now, the important thing, I'm going to say this now, and then I'll add it, reiterate it later. When you're doing WH question words, is it's really important that your eyebrows are down. So you may be thinking you're making an angry face, like who, but that actually is a really important, facial expressions are very important in ASL, and they actually help to tell a person if you're asking questions, or basically like it really draws in what you're talking about. So for example, with asking like WH question words or yes, no questions, your eyebrows make a big difference on telling the person what you're asking. And so for example, like if you're saying like, who are you? Like going you, who? The eyebrows down, who? Tells them, oh, you have a question that needs an answer. So that's what they do for the WH question words. It's going to be like every single one of them. So the next one is going to be what. And so what you're going to do for what is you're going to go what. What. And I know it feels weird. You almost feel like you're being angry with your eyebrows, like what? But it's very, like I said, it's real important. It takes a minute. If you're one of those people who's like, I don't always show my emotions on my face, pretend like you're in a play. Get your facial expressions. Like I lucked out because I literally show all my facial expressions on my face like easily. So like this just came natural. But I know a few people who are like, they're like having to sit there like, where are my eyebrows? Because they're not used to having to like move them that much like that. So what? All right. The next one is where. So where is going to be, it's a slightly bent pointer finger. Yeah. It's not a full like X. It's just slightly bent. And you're going to go where. Mm-hmm. And I will say a lot of deaf people actually will mouth that. Like they'll do like almost that where, that ending. They do the same thing for who. They always end that Q, like who with that little O. So, which is kind of helpful when you're learning, because then it helps you remember like, oh, who, what, those sort of things. So where. All right. Then we have when. When is going to be, you're going to have two fingers together, and you're going to have your dominant finger is going to go in a circle. When. Mm-hmm. When. Mm-hmm. I can come a little closer. So like it starts, it's almost like when we do the year, you know, when we do that whole motion with the year, it's like that, but with your pointer fingers. So you're going to start there and you're going to go down and come back. Mm-hmm. When. Mm-hmm. And then why. Sorry, I always go in my brain. I have it in a specific way. And if I flip two of them, I have to go back through it. So for why, there are a few different ways of doing it. I'm going to show you the first one, and then I'll show you the other ones. The first one is going to be, you start at the head like this, and then you're going to go end in a Y. So why. I'm trying to turn sideways so y'all can see my hand shape. So it starts as like, my pinky tends to just really stick up high when I do it anyways. Why. Mm-hmm. And the reason this one's up here is because this is no, like this is the sign for like, I know this. And so it's like you're saying, well, you know that, you know, if you think about the why is more of a complex question, you know, it's like, well, why is it that way? It's the lots of thinking. So that's where that why, and that ends in that the letter, the shape Y. So that's why. All right. The other two ways of doing why are you go middle finger, why. Mm-hmm. So it's like all of your fingers are up except your middle finger, which is the one that only touches the side of your forehead, and you pull back. Why? I've seen this one. And then the other one that I've seen is it's the same motion shape like this with that middle, but you bounce it. Why? Why? So you don't even move it. So those are the three. This is the one I see the most, that top full knowledge, full head thing into the why. Why? All right, let's go back through. We'll start with our who, what's, when, where, whys. And then what I'm going to do is I'll take a break just so I want to explain how you would use them in a question, in a sentence in sign language. Sorry, I have a fly in here. It's very distracting when I see it. Let's go back to our who, who, and then what. I feel like this is one that also, like, it's just, I don't know, me, I'm like sitting there, like, if I'm talking about, I'm like, what? Like, you know, I just kind of make that motion as is. So that's what I think about when I think of what, is something that we kind of do anyways. What? Then we have where, and then when, and then why, why. Yes. Okay. So when you are using, sorry, this fly is really just all over here. When you're using WH question words, the way you're going to do them is you're actually going to put those question words at the very end. So when you're asking a question, instead of it being like, what's your name? You will actually say your name, what? And that way, that's just a good, one of the reasons why it helps that, besides it also just being that's how the structure is, but is it helps tell the person at the end that you are asking a question. You start with like the main focus of the subject, which is your name, and then what you want with it, you know, like is your, like, if you think about it, for example, like if you're in a classroom and you're trying to find out, like, well, where's your name? Like, where are you? Where's your desk? You know what I mean? You go, your name, where? Or if you're just trying to figure out their name, is like, your name, what? Things like that. It makes a big difference. So you want to have those WH question words at the very end. That way, the person you're talking to knows exactly what kind of question you are asking and what kind of answer you're expecting in return. So there is, let me see, I was going to say, so if you're talking about like the bathroom, and I'll add that sign now too. So like if you're going to say, where's the bathroom? So what you do is the sign for bathroom, which it's a T, and you shake it back and forth. Technically, this is bathroom, but this is my teacher always I tell everybody this class, every class, this story. My teacher used to not want us to use this one. She wanted us to use this one where it's R and you go R, because this is restroom. And she said this one is like restroom's more proper, if that makes more sense, because the T stands for toilet. And it drove her crazy that we're going, we need the toilet, instead of saying, where's the restroom? And I will never forget it, because she was so like, we do not need to be saying toilets. We need to be saying restroom. But everywhere I go, it's toilet. Everyone uses the bouncing T. So I just always think that's funny to me. I'll never forget that. But so if you were going to ask where the bathroom is, you would go bathroom where? Bathroom where? That ending. Okay. So let's go over, my goodness. I let one fly in on accident when I opened the door for my cat to go outside. And it's just, he's decided he's made a home all over here. I was going to say is let's go through the 5 WH question words, and then we'll start our food. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say it. I'm going to give you an extra second, and then I'm going to add in signing it. So just give you guys kind of a chance to think it through. So who? What? Where? Mm-hmm. When? Your cat is like, no, I want to sign with you. And then why? Why? Mm-hmm. Why? Okay. I always say for like when you're doing like when, I think about, like the clock, it's that whole circular motion time, clock sort of thing. So that just a little help with that. Where is one of those, once you get it, there's not always a helpful thing with it to make it just kind of click. So like, it's just where. Okay. So let's do our first food items. We're going to start with our fruit items first. That's what we usually do. So the very first sign though that I'm going to show you is the sign for food itself. So the sign for food is going to be kind of like a semi-closed like O, and you're going to go food. And you want to make sure you bounce it twice when you're talking about food. The reason is because if you do one time, that's eat. So a lot of times with certain things like that, if there's like two words that basically mean very similar things, like one can be a verb, one can be a noun, they typically will do that thing. They'll do that same sort of thing. So bouncing it twice means like the noun, whereas one time means the eat. That's the same for like sitting and chair. That's why I was saying it. They're very similar. So, all right. The next sign is fruit. The sign for fruit is you're going to have an F. You're going to put it at the corner of your mouth and you're going to go fruit. Fruit. Mm-hmm. The first one is apple. And so apple is going to have that X, and the back of your finger is going to go to the corner of your mouth and you're going to go apple. Apple. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then we have orange. Orange is orange. It's like you're squeezing it in front of your mouth. Orange. Mm-hmm. And this one also is also the sign for the color orange. So it's both the fruit and the color. Sometimes they'll have signs that are like very similar that are like, no, they're two, like in English, they're the same word, but because they have different meanings, they have different signs. But orange is one that stays the same for both. Then we have strawberry. Strawberry is going to be your thumb. You're going to put your thumb like on your chin. So it's like you want the nail sticking out. Yeah, thumb. I mean, strawberry. Sorry. I was terrible about this. I always did this. Like I would constantly have it at the back, but it's your thumb needs to like touch your chin. Strawberry. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's do one more and then we'll go through those again. The next one we have is grapes. So grapes is going to be your non-dominant hand, and your dominant hand is going to come on top of it and bounce. Grapes. And if you think about it, it's like the vines. So the vines of the grapes. Mm-hmm. I guess, yeah, there we go. So y'all can see better. Grapes. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's go back through. So food again was food. I had added eat, that one motion, eat. Mm-hmm. Then fruit. Mm-hmm. Then apple. Mm-hmm. Orange. Strawberry. Mm-hmm. And then grapes. And if you're trying to tell someone what color grapes, like what kind of grapes, we have green grapes and then regular, which usually are the purple ones. You would use the color signs, which I think, have we sent that video out to y'all already? The color video? Okay. Miss Katie, if we will send that in the next email, that would be great. We have a colors video already made where it has just the signs given. So once you guys can check through it, you would just do the green and the purple and in front of the sign for grapes. Okay, so the next fruit sign is banana. And so banana is super easy. It's banana. Well, pointer finger, sorry. I realized did not have it right. But it's just the motion of peeling a banana. Banana. Then we have peach. And so peach is going to go peach. Peach. And if you think about it, it's like the peach fuzz on the cheeks, peach. Peach. Then we have lemon. So lemon's going to be an L. You're going to have it at the corner of your mouth again. And you're going to go lemon. 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 All right. And then our last fruit is a tomato. I have arguments every other class. There's always a big discussion about tomatoes. So I always leave it in the fruits because I think I put it in a vegetable the first time. I didn't mean to, I just did. And every time I would consistently get called out for it. And I was like, I promise, I know it's not. I know it's a fruit. And I put it up and it happens every class, y'all. I do not understand why apparently tomatoes are just a very big topic. So what you do for tomato is you're going to do the sign for the color red, which is red. And then what you'll do is you'll do this motion of slicing, which you have your non-dominant kind of in a weird little flat. Yeah. And then your dominant pointer is going to go slice, slice, slice. So red slice. Red slice. Yeah, tomato technically doesn't have its own little special sign. It's two signs put together, which I remember one friend who really, really loved tomatoes was really kind of sad about that. And I was like, I'm not a tomato girl, so it doesn't affect me. Okay. Let's go through those four, and then we're going to move on to vegetables. So we had banana. Peach. Lemon. And then tomato. Okay. Now let's move on to our vegetables. There are not as many vegetables on this because a lot of them do end up being finger spelled. That's kind of a thing you'll kind of notice the more we do specific things like animals and food is there certain things that the more specific you get, the more likelihood it's finger spelled. So a lot of vegetables are finger spelled. So the sign for vegetable is going to be very similar to the sign for fruit, but it's a V. Vegetable. So it's like the two and then vegetable. Oh, excuse me. All right. The first one I have is corn. And so corn, there are two ways you can do it. The first one is corn. So it's like you start kind of on the side and you go forward. Corn. Corn. This one always makes me think of brushing your teeth, though. I will be real. So I don't typically use this one. But sorry, a lot of people do use that one. The one I use is corn. Like I'm holding the cob, corn. This one is also used common too. They both kind of go back and forth. It depends on where you're at that they will use it. So corn. Yes, good. All right. The next one is lettuce / cabbage. They're both they're basically the same sign. There are a few people that will do it differently, and I'll show you how they add that little difference. But in general, they are used the same sign. And it's going to be the palm of your hand. So you kind of like this really open shape. And the palm is going to go to your side of your forehead. Lettuce. And if you think about it, it's head of lettuce. You have a head of lettuce. the leaves of the, you know, how it kind of comes out of the head like that. Yeah. So cabbage and lettuce. One way that people will use to just like identify the difference is they'll use this one for cabbage, and then for lettuce they'll do the L, the lettuce. Now I will say this one is probably more that signing exact English and not actually ASL, because this one's the more, this is the more ASL version. All right, then we have carrot, and carrot is going to be exactly what you think it is. Carrot, like you're just taking a bite. Carrot. I always think about like how when you snap it, like when you have a raw, when you eat a raw carrot, it's like one of those big ones and you just go crunch. Yeah, carrot. Carrot. All right. For salad, because I know that's with lettuce, what you'll do is think about when, you know, when you go to like, not anymore with Olive Garden, but you know, Olive Garden used to have like, they give you all the stuff and the person there would make it for you. Think about that. It's like a tossed salad. So you're gonna have these open hands and your fingers are going to kind of come like click. So see how mine ends up like this? Salad. And it's like those tongs, and you want to keep your hands up. So let me see if I can make a better pose without my laptop falling. Salad. So I always think about like those big tongs they use when they're making, you know, they're making the salad and they're like doing that motion. It's that sort of thing. Salad. Yes. All right. Then the next one is, so the next two are technically not veggies, like vegetables, but I have them in that category. So the next one is pickle. So pickle is going to be that P, and you're going to go pickle. Or it looks more like a K when it's up, like pickle. Pickle. It's your so it's going to be your middle finger. Yeah. So you have your middle finger touch your cheek. There you go. Yeah. I can see you going, this doesn't look the same. What's going on? Yeah, it's the middle finger. The other one that people will use for pickle is just pickle. And the reason they do that is because this is technically the sign for sour. Like if something is sour, which is why lemon's right here and then pickles are right here. But there is also the sign for candy is right here too. They're like all right in there. They're very similar. My thing on telling the difference is that your facial expressions. So if you're going to talk about a pickle, you're not talking, I mean, I know there's sweet pickles, but most of the time people are not talking about pickles. They're going to talk about pickles, like it's sour, you know, like you purse your lips, pickle. I'm not a big pickle person. I won't lie. Like I try to like pickles and I can't. So whenever I have to talk about pickles, I'm always like, I like make like a whole stink face with it. And I don't mean to, it's just me going, it's sour. And I'm like, no, not for me. So I'm always like pickle. All right. The last one I have is potato. So for potato, what you're going to do is you're going to have your non-dominant fist. Dominant is going to be kind of like it's a V, but now bent. And you're going to go potato. And you tap it. Potato. If you wanted to talk about like sweet potato, what you do is you do the sign for sweet, which is sweet. Sweet potato. So sweet potato. Okay, let's go back through those. So we're going to go back to all the way to our top, which was vegetable, which is vegetable. So okay, this one is a confusing one. There's vegetable and pickle. Vegetable is going to keep this V shape, and this one will be your pointer finger, vegetable. And then for pickle is where you go from, you do the K, like I would do your K shape. And then the middle finger does the pickle. If that makes sense on the difference. So you have vegetable with the pointer, middle with the pickle. Okay. So then we had corn, or corn. We had cabbage / lettuce. Lettuce, cabbage. Yep. Then we had carrot. 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 I always make the motion like I'm actually like taking a bite. I don't know why, if that's just me really acting it out, but I always have that added little fun, like little bite at the end of it. Then we had salad. Salad. Now I know I'm like lifting my shoulders up and being really awkward. It's just because usually it's lower down and you can't see me. So I'm lifting it a little bit higher for y'all. Salad. Then we had pickle, which we just did, but we'll do it again. Pickle or pickle. Then the last one we did is potato. Potato. And we had added our sweet potato. This is also chips, like potato chips. A lot of times what will happen is it's, again, so the biggest thing, I don't know if I've said this much yet this class, but the biggest thing in ASL is when a lot of signs will have the same, like a lot of words will have the same, not signs. A lot of words have the same sign. Like example, cabbage and lettuce. Yes, there is a difference between cabbage and lettuce, but it's sweet. So it's like you pull it down, like I'll turn sideways. So it's like the four fingers on my chin and I pull down. Sweet. Sweet. So, but what I was going to say is that there are a lot of signs that will have the same. So like cabbage and lettuce being that same thing. And what typically happens is through context clues, you gather what is actually which one you're meaning. It makes more sense when there's other words that have a lot of the same sign. And so I'm trying to remember where I went with this. I lost my track real quick. Oh, potato. That's right. Potato chips and potatoes. In my mind, they're very different because I love my potatoes and I love them all forms of ways. But potato chips and potatoes are different. If I'm going to have roasted potatoes versus potato chips, that's a huge difference to me. So, but when I'm having like a conversation, like I'm talking about, you know, oh yeah, we're having hot dogs and potato, like, and I go potatoes, or the campers, students say that. I typically, the context is the assumption it's potato chips. You know, most of the time you have hot dogs and chips together. If you have potato salad, that's a different thing because you'd have to go potato salad and add that. But so it kind of goes in with context. You know, if you're talking about, oh yeah, I had beet, like I know we haven't done meat yet, but like meat and gravy with potatoes, I'm gonna think like that's okay, that's actually like the potato itself. So you know what I mean? It's like really, it comes through context. It's hard to explain. I remember my teacher kept doing that and I was like, I don't get it. You keep saying context. I'm like, how am I supposed to know this when I'm talking? And I remember I got a little, like, not frustrated, but I was like, this is kind of stressful to think about. And then I started signing with like deaf people and I was talking to them and I was like, oh wait, I get it now. So it really is a whole thing of when you're in the action with the conversation, it helps. So all right, let's move on to I kind of have a little space of, I think, was it 5 signs, and these are kind of your like description signs for food. So the first one we did, which was sour. And remember, I would almost pretend like you just took a chunk of lemon, like you had a whole lemon and you took a bite out of it and you're like, oh, your whole face is just scrunching up. Sour. Then the other one we just did was sweet. 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 And this one is also the sign for like saying someone is sweet. So, oh, she's such a sweet girl. That sweet. The next one is hot. So hot's going to be like a really big C. You're going to start at your mouth and then you go hot. 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 I always think about with that one, it's like you're like like when you take a bite, you know, like you take a bite of something that's still really hot and you immediately go in this whole like you just keep breathing it out. Hot. The next one is spicy. So you can technically use the sign hot for spicy, but spicy does have its own. This one, so I'm going to kind of come a little close so you can see, because I'm doing this wiggly motion of my fingers, but I'm also going to move it. So I have it towards my mouth, and then I'm going to go spicy, like I bounce it back and forth. My visual of this is that when like you take a bite of something really spicy, or like, in cartoons and stuff, when some person takes a bite of something and flames come out of their mouth, that's what I think of. Like the flames are just flying out of my mouth because it's so spicy. Spicy. And then the next one is cold. So the sign for cold is cold. It's like you're shaking, and like this time you would actually have your shoulders up. Like it's not just me being like, oh, I'm trying to move it so you can see. Like I would almost act like when you're outside and you're like, oh, like cover up with the jacket, cold. That is also for the sign for cold. Like I'm cold. Yeah, that area is cold, and then like the food is cold. That some people, when they're being dramatic, i.e., my sixth graders, my second year of teaching, would tell me when their food was frozen. They would say it's cold enough to the point where they go, it's frozen. And so the sign for frozen is you're going to have your hands flat and you bend them in, like you kind of like have them, yeah, frozen. Let me turn it down so you can see it. So it's like my fingers are straight and then they end in a bend. Frozen. 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 So sometimes people will say, well, my food is frozen. It's so cold, it's icy. That was just my dramatic kids. I've always had a dramatic group. They're fun, but they are so dramatic. So I'll never forget when they were just like, my chicken is frozen. And I was like, is it really? And it wasn't, but he was like, it's so cold, it's frozen. It's like, okay, we're fine. So let's go back through those 6 since I added frozen in there. We had our sour. We had our sweet. We had our hot. Hot. Spicy. Cold. And then our frozen. Frozen. Yep. Good. Okay. So the next set is like, let's see, it's a little wonky because what I do is I'll add more to it and then I kind of try to split it up and I make it a little wonky. We're going to do more like actual food things, such as like I have for this little area is pizza, hamburger, spaghetti. Sandwich, because we already did salad. My salad was on here, but I moved it up. So we're going to do like our four main like dinner meals. And then we're going to get into like our meats and our seafood, that general thing. So the first one is pizza. There are 2 ways you can sign pizza. The one that's used often is it's almost like you're holding a slice. It's a very weird shape. Yeah, I know. And what you're going to do is you're going to bring it to your mouth. Pizza. Pizza. The other option is you have the V. You go into that double Z again, and then you make the Z. Pizza. I learned this one and then immediately never used it again because most of my kids at my school do pizza. It's one of those things where you're like, oh, this is where regions make a difference in where you're at. So the next one I have is hamburger. And so for hamburger, you're going to go hamburger. It's like making the meat patties. That's what I always think of, hamburger. Then if you wanted to do cheeseburger, you'll do the sign for cheese. And so the sign for cheese is you're going to have your non-dominant sideways like this. Your dominant is going to have that palm coming to the top, and then you shake it back and forth. Cheese. Cheese. So you go cheese burger. Cheese. All right, then the next one is sandwich. So for sandwich, it's going to be, you're going to have, I'm trying to figure out the best way. So like kind of like this, but have them together. Yeah. And then you're going to bring it to your mouth. Sandwich. This visual of this is like you're holding, when you hold the sandwich and you're eating it like this. When, you know, I don't eat my sandwich like that, but I think some people do. So if you do, it's like that. And then my final meal thing like this is spaghetti. So the reason spaghetti is also here is because spaghetti in general is also the sign for pasta. And so what you're going to do is you're going to have your pinkies and you're going to spin them. And it's like you have the noodles, spaghetti, pasta. A lot of times telling the difference is you would either finger spell like marinara or Alfredo. Most of the time for like, if you're talking about, oh yeah, I had spaghetti and then meatballs, which I'll show you the sign for meat and how you would do meatballs. I know when I'm thinking about, whenever I think about actual like pasta like Alfredo, I think of like shrimp or chicken. I don't always have meatballs with my Alfredo. It's things like those that make that context that click. But if it is something where you feel like, oh, maybe they're really not getting that, I'm not talking about spaghetti, like I'm actually talking about just general pasta and noodles, I would finger spell pasta just to add in there. And it's always, it's very natural to be like, no, that's, oh, wait, no, I meant pasta, like, I mean that, not spaghetti itself, but the pasta of it. I feel like sometimes it's hard, you don't want to feel like you're wrong, like you're not wrong, but feel like I have to correct because they've misunderstood. But when you add that finger spelling in, it really doesn't have that weird feeling sometimes. I know like that's one of the reasons why I love ASL compared to like other languages is like in Spanish, if you forget the word for something, how are you going to like get it across without going into describing it and using different words to describe it, or, making the motion, shapes, acting it out sort of thing? It can be really challenging. But in ASL, if you know how to finger spell, you really can get through your conversation. Really it's not as hard as like you would think. I remember like learning, there's a few times I was like, I don't know the words of this. There's still words that like there's not a sign for, or I've not seen a sign for, and I'll finger spell the word, or like I'll even forget. And I'll be having a conversation and I'll be like, well, I'm working in I'm trying to even think, the storage closet or something like that. And I keep going, like, even though I finger spelled storage and the sign for storage is storage, they're like, it's not a big deal. They're not going to sit there and go, wow, you don't know that sign. Like, it's just a normal conversation. So that's something that I always try to encourage is like, or try to remind everyone is don't feel bad if you don't remember a sign. If you are able to finger spell it, or at least get parts of it, most of the time they're going to understand and help you. So let's go back through our meal signs, and then I'll talk about meats and seafood. So, but we started with pizza. Pizza. Then we had our hamburger. And then our cheeseburger. Then we had our sandwich. And then spaghetti. Or pasta, spaghetti. All right. Now, sorry. All right. So For your meat, what you'll do for the sign for, so the sign for itself of meat is going to be your non-dominant is sideways. Dominant is going to be like your middle finger and your thumb, and you're going to collect it on there. The visual is meats on a hook. So like you just kind of hold it there. Yeah. So you're not tapping. Yeah. Sorry. I know I tapped. That was just me showing the motion of I'm grabbing it, but you're just going to hold the meat. This is also the sign for content. Like if you're talking about like, at least like in school, when you're talking about, oh, the content we're going to be learning is blah, 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 blah. Like you'd be like, the content is this. Which I remember is like that. Why is that so? There's such opposites. But then if you think about it, we usually say, oh, well, the meat of the story, the meat of this, that's where that comes from. So, but for the different types of meats, because that's just a general meat, for chicken, what you'll do is you're going to go chicken. Chicken. So it's what it is it's like you're doing like the little pinching of this, but in front of your nose. It's like the beak, basically. Chicken. This sign is for chicken, bird, the animal chicken, the meat chicken, and the actual, like the generalized term for bird. That's very like general sign. Most of the time when you're talking about, oh, like I'm eating chicken, like chicken's a more commonly used one. If you were talking about a different type of bird, like you've ate like quail or something, that's where I would recommend doing this, but then finger spelling it. So like whale, because they're going to think you actually mean chicken when you say that. It's just very common. That's what it's used more often. We have, so pig, like ham, pig, those sort of things. What you're going to do is the back of your hand is going to go under your chin. And then you're going to bring it in. Yeah. Pig, ham. And so this is the sign for pig, but it is also the sign for like ham, like the meat of the pig. Yeah, I think those are the two main ones. Beef is really just like beef or meat. I typically use this one for my beef when I'm talking about it. So that's just typically what I do, or I'll finger spell beef, because beef is such a B-E-E-F. It's such a short word. Beef. Okay. Let's move on to our seafood. So we have fish. So the sign for fish is going to be your pointer finger of your non-dominant is under, like kind of right where your hand ends and your wrist starts, really. And you're going to have your hand sideways, and you're going to, oh. Can y'all still see me? No, I froze. Yeah, I see that. Let's see. Oh, let me try. Can y'all still hear me though? That's weird. Okay, hold on. Uh-oh, Zoom is not responding. Let's see. Uh-oh, let's see. Okay, give me a second, guys, because I'm frozen. I'm gonna try to exit out and then come back. Okay, let's see.
Hey y'all. So wait a minute. Jillian just messaged me, so I'm assuming she's just trying to get back in the classroom. So we'll give her a couple more minutes to get back in with us. Okay, just got another text from Jillian. She is headed back in. I think Zoom is giving her troubles on her end. And no, I did not do a quiz last week. I have, let's see, I think I sent out the numbers quiz week before last, I think. Okay. I think I have another quiz I can send out, and then I wanted to do one on maybe combining some things, numbers, family, combining some of the different classes that we've signs we've learned in different classes.
Okay, there we go. All right, sorry guys. Like it just Zoom loves to just, I think, randomly decide to assign, hey, we're gonna have an update. And instead of like waiting, it's like we're gonna do it right now. Because then when I was trying to figure it out, I was like, well, we paused it during your meeting. And I'm like, but you didn't pause it, you paused me. So, and it was being all kinds of stubborn, and I was just not here for it. And I was like, we really, especially because I was like, really, we have like 10 more minutes. You couldn't wait. Oh, yes, I see what you said, Julie. Yes, exactly. I mean, yes, I froze. And the weird thing though is I could see myself, like I could see that I was frozen, but I could see that y'all were still like y'all were moving and y'all could still hear me. And I'm like, that's weird. And I think that's when Zoom was like, oh, wait, she's in a meeting. We're going to stop, but we're going to stop her camera too. And I'm like, no, don't do that. It's mean. So, okay, let's see. We were on fish. Yes, because we stopped right here. So back to our position of fish. What we're going to do is you're going to make like this motion. Yeah, fish. It's like I'm bending it towards me. So fish. And this is the food. And this is also the pet, like the pet, the animal itself, just the whole general terms for fish. Fish. With that, a lot of times for the types, if you're talking about types of fish, like if you're talking about salmon or tuna or things like that, you do finger spell. Most of the time I'll do fish and then I'll like finger spell like like tuna. I'm finger spelling salmon. I'm finger spelling tuna, but saying salmon. Or like flounder, things like that as you finger spell them. And there's really not a lot of different versions of like signs of fish for those. So the next one I have is shrimp. There are two ways I've seen it. One of them is shrimp, where it's just like little bending fingers and they come across. I do shrimp, like I do it the exact opposite way. And the reason for that is because this can be complicated. That's like actually like it gets confused, like complicating, it's conflicting, all that. Like I think of that because like it like conflicts. That's that motion, but it's like to me that's still like, oh, that's conflicting, like complicated. So I do away. Shrimp. All right, so to finish us off, I'm gonna get a few more in. I know, like I said, this one's one of those really heavy ones where it's like boom, boom, boom. And if we hadn't lost those 5 minutes, what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to do our drinks, then I'm going to do sweets, and then I'm going to do like the 3 main breakfast, lunch, dinner signs. So for drinks, we have water. Water is going to be a W, and you're going to have your pointer finger go to the corner of your mouth. Water. And this is for really any type of water. Like if you need water, like you're out at the ocean, the lake, the river, it's the water motion. You usually add something like for ocean, it's like ocean and like river, things like that. But if you're talking about just the drinking water, it's water. Then we have milk, and milk is milk. Milk. All right. Then we have soda. So soda, there's no specific ones for like Sprite, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, none of that. If you wanted to be really specific, you would finger spell them. But the sign for Sprite for soda is you start with your middle finger. It's going to go like inside, and then you pull it out and you slap down. Soda. And you do it like really fast. And it's almost like that motion of like when you pop it open and then you're just slamming it down so the fizz doesn't come up, basically. Soda. Soda. Yes. I'm watching to make sure I can see. Yes. Y'all got that one. That was always just kind of a weird one to slow down and everything. Okay. Now, coffee. So the sign for coffee is going to be, you have 2 fists. They're on top of each other. And then you have the top one going in a circle motion. It's almost like when you grind the coffee grounds. Yeah, coffee. And then we have tea. So tea is going to be like your little 9, and you're going to go tea. And you're going to stir it. So this is another one. If you did sweet tea, you would go sweet tea. Excuse me. All right. The last, now let's get onto our desserts real quick. There's not that many. So for ice cream, the sign for ice cream is ice cream. And it's like you're licking the ice cream cone. Like when you have the ice cream, you're like, yep, ice cream. Then we have cookie. And cookie is going to be, so it's an L, bend your thumb, your pointer finger, and you're going to go to your mouth. Cookie. Cookie. Then we have chocolate. So I'm going to try to go short, but I will tell you guys the funny story about chocolate, not next week, the week after. There's a very funny little thing with it that Miss Katie and I crack up about, but we don't have time for it. So the sign for chocolate is going to be a C, and you're going to put it on top of your non-dominant, and you're going to, like, I would rest on the back of your hand. Yeah. And then you're going to go circular motion, chocolate. And so this is also talking like the chocolate, like the flavor of chocolate, the actual sign, like actual food chocolate, this one. And so it's all of them. Okay. The last 3, and then I promise I'm going to let y'all go because I know I'm like throwing a lot right now, and I'm sorry about it. I'm just trying to give it to you. The sign for breakfast is going to just be morning. Keep wanting to do good morning, but morning food. Some people will do breakfast like a B, and they'll brush it kind of towards their face. It's easy to get that one confused with another not so nice sign. So typically the rule of thumb is to encourage morning food. And then lunch is going to be an L, and you're going to have it in front, lunch, and you tap it. Lunch. Then the last one is dinner, and dinner is going to be the same thing as lunch, but with a D, dinner. So it's that pointer finger there. Yeah, dinner. All right. I think obviously we didn't get through all the food signs because there's a lot of them and there's always more and more added. Excuse me. If there are any that you're like, I eat this a lot, this is a big one, just let me know, and then next week we can go through it and go over them beforehand, like the ones that you want to see that we didn't. And yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything, please let Miss Katie know. She'll let me know. We can talk about it like next class. I know we really went fast those last few ones. I get it, I do. But like we have it done is that it's recorded, so you guys can go back and look at them again and practice them. And that should help as well. So next week we don't have class because it's 4th of July. So we won't, so we'll have class July 10th, 11th. I think it's 11th. Let me check real quick. It will be, nope. Yeah, the 11th. So our next class won't be until July 11th. All right. I'm gonna let you guys go. Oh, hot dog, real quick. Hot dog is gonna be, you're holding like the bun and you have one singular hot dog. Hot dog. Hot dog. Hot dog. Yes. I'm glad you asked that one. That one should be actually on there. I can't believe it's on. But yeah, hot dog. So yeah. Perfect in time for 4th of July too. All right. You guys have a wonderful rest of your week and 4th of July. And I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.